things that newspapers does, which is still best done through newspapers. So in a typical path to purchase for a consumer, newspapers will continue to have a very important role, especially in Malaysia. However, newspaper formats are also mutating quite fast. So I mean, Star's iPad version is, I think, as good as any you could find in the world. So there is a lot of transformation going on that front as well. But to echo what Ijam said, is, for instance, today my prime source of news are actually 5 Twitter guys I follow. One for technology, one for political news, one for finance, one for our industry developments and so on. And that is where suddenly it hit me one fine morning that actually first time I come to know about most of the news today is from there rather than from the morning newspaper. And Ijam is one of them. You can depend on him for all the entertainment related news and stuff like that.
So I had a point on that. I think pretty much like how we spoke about content, and content being a generic and being across different platforms. I think, and video being almost a commodity to be served across different platforms through different models, we think that newsprint as well is going to be part of a larger sort of pie called e-publishing. And e-publishing is going to be sort of, it's really going to be news, text content that's going to be distributed across different mediums. It could be tweets, it could be websites, it could be sort of, e-newspapers like you spoke. And I think even in Malaysia, what you'll see is that a lot of the strong players in print have already started consolidating their online offerings. They clearly see where this is going, and most of the stronger players have already consolidated their positions through their online offerings.
Thank you.
Obviously, I mean, I'm sure we all have experienced the rise of massive visual culture. So, I mean, I really, I'm nostalgic for Marshall McLuhan's hot medium phenomenon that used to happen with the text, you know. You read text and pictures are creating in your brains rather than written on the text. But that is gradually sipping away, and we are looking at a generation that is more experience-oriented, which is much more superficial, but much more wider range of experiences, rather than depth-oriented, which text used to bring. But that is the future. Visual culture is everywhere.
That's very true. I mean, there used to be a time when radio was known as a theater of the mind. Yeah. That doesn't apply anymore.
I think the other things that you sort of alluded to in terms of where we're getting our content. Look, journalists are getting their content now from Twitter.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've all got a smartphone, and whether you've seen something and you're out on the street and you're photographing it, whether it could be anything from, you know, Osama bin Laden's, you know, sort of the helicopters there, and, you know, that little guy in Pakistan, somebody became a phenomena overnight because everybody wanted to talk to him. You know, and you know, in a situation like that. That was way before any of the national or global news agencies had got any of the information. So I think journalism is happening on the street with phones, and both from Twitter and photographs, and increasingly more video content will happen. And I think, you know, electronic paper, look, we don't use papyrus anymore. We don't chisel into, you know, bits of stone anymore. And so perhaps the future won't be that we print on paper. I mean, printing has changed. We don't print with linotype anymore, you know, those hard, hot pieces of metal. You know, printing industry's changed to become digital. And so it's invariably that the paper itself will become digital, and with it will become those real-time Twitter updates, which will happen very, very fast to make your newspaper change quicker. And it'll also become increasingly more probably video. The stories themselves won't just be photographs, there'll be a lot more video content. So I don't think journalism itself will necessarily change, but it may offer us new opportunities to be able to get your message out much faster than waiting for the 24-hour deadline that currently exists within a newspaper world.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, there's a gentleman there who would like to ask a question, please. Or was he just waving at me? Oh no, he is. Yeah.
Hi, I represent an ad agency, and I think one of the issues that usually arise is when we get into meetings with our clients. We sit down and we talk about proliferation of media, proliferation of content. I think generally the atmosphere becomes a worry. I think, and it's understandable because we have to manage budgets, expectations, blah, blah. How would you guys, what words of comfort or what advice would you have for those of us in the creative industry, as well as the brand owners?
Izam, would you like to take that?
Yeah.
Word of advice to you media people is to buy Media Prima.
I tell you, the heart.
Stay focused.
Okay. No, actually you should, yeah. You say that you get worried when you listen to all these different talks of fragmentation of the market, but I believe the glass is always more full than it is empty, so I think you should be more excited than you should be worried. There are a lot of things happening. The problem I think you face is how do you apply your traditional metrics and thinking onto something that's changing, so that's why you're worried. So maybe it's time to relook at the tools that you're using and suddenly realize that there are a lot of things that you can do. In fact, much more so to interact with the audience on a scale that's never been seen before. You can interact with them and get them to buy things that like you've never seen before. Like last time, we've only had the big mass market traditional mediums. We had TV, print, outdoor and all that. And these people provide the screaming, the loud noise, the yelling. It's like, I always equate this to an alley-oop, where you know the alley-oop in basketball, where when you throw the ball up in the air, that's the traditional media. But the digital guys, they can actually dunk the thing. They can actually close the sale for you because it's very, very interactive. So if I were you, I would look at the combination of both medium, how to shout as loud as you can, and how to close the sale. I mean, other than that, yeah, buy Media Prima. That's my only advice.
I mean, sorry.
I think, yeah, so I think one of the things that's really important being a creative agency is, I think irrespective of how big this pie becomes, or no matter which way it goes, or no matter how big digital gets, I think the one key thing that's going to drive ideas is creative. I don't think we can distance ourselves from the power of ideation and the power of big ideas. We see it in content, we see it across formats, and what my advice to you would be is, as long as you can keep coming up with strong ideas, the rest of it will spin around, whether it's technology, whether it's content, whether it's platforms. I think the power of ideas still remain, and as long as creative keeps generating those strong ideas, you will find homes across various different scenarios. By the way, a lot of people are now switching to Astro because of the power of those ideas. Thank you.
Finally, wait, I have to add to that.
We could have a private debate on this, really.
Actually, for the first time in my life, I agree with Astro.
Well, this is terrible. I'm feeling left out.
No, wait.
AMP reaches 11.6 million people on a weekly basis. That's
all right, in case they are all confusing you, come to for helping you with how this works. I think to add to Aditya's brilliant point, whenever you feel confused and overwhelmed by the multiplicity of choices and forever changing things and stuff like that, always go back to this one singular fact, which is that at the center of it all is a human, is a person, all right? It's people like you and me. And whatever mediums, whatever formats, screens, platforms, ultimately, what can make a difference to our brands, businesses, is that human insight. And rest all is just manifestations and expressions and formats and stuff like that. That will give you a lot of comfort, because getting that correct, finding that right insight, understanding that human being, and getting the right idea to address it, that is 70–80% of the job.
Yeah.
All the other things that you hear is just 20%. So yes, the more things change, the more they remain the same.
I'm going to add to that. Facebook. Anybody heard of Facebook? Right. So we've been so successful as an industry of driving people to websites, find us online ads, and then we've changed that to say find us on Facebook. Some brands now have more followers on Facebook than these guys have audience. Why do I need to buy media? Because the whole point is we're sitting on media. It's now about creative engagement. And so really, you can all sit there and argue about how wonderful and who we should buy from, because maybe we won't buy media at all in the future. I mean, no, but I mean, seriously, I think creative engagement will always find a way of doing it. And I think whether it was through print or television, or increasingly through online, and whether that's Flash or HTML5, or whatever the new wave is, I think you rightly said, it's about telling great stories. And I think the thing I'm most excited about by this new wave of technology is the ability to go back to a soap opera type story. I think if you've got an audience It's how do you keep them entertained? And I think the role of a creative storyteller is going to be hugely important moving forward. And maybe we'll see more product placements, maybe we'll see less long-form advertising, more product insertions, maybe there'll be new ways and formats that we'll figure out. But the need to tell great stories will never ever go away, because that's just human nature, whether we're sitting around a campfire or whether in the new realms of the thing. So I would just say, you know, don't think of it, oh, I need to build a website or build a TV commercial. Just say, what can I do? How far can I take this to engage my consumers? And I think that's really what we're all sitting on. It's not just how do we find the consumers, but how do we really get them excited about what can be done for the brands.
I'll show you a creative client of ours actually last week, and this is what we'll be doing for them on My FM, which is the #1 Chinese channel in the country, not with Media Prima. So anyway, they have this thing called the Palace Stories, which is hugely popular. It's a satire, basically, and they're supposed to be back in the Forbidden Palace, etc. But they discuss today's current issues. So for the video podcast version of that, there's coffee cups with the client's logo on it. You don't see it on air, you hear it on air, but when you tune into the video podcast, you see that. So product placement is already happening from radio stations as well. We're not the first ones to do it, you know, but integrated clients' messages, I think, is key when you're pushing out content, especially on new devices.
I'd like to close that loop. I mean, the guy at the back asked the question that got all of us fired up. The thing is to stand out in this crazy world of fragmentation, like what Dean said, to stand out from all your competition is you need to have a really good story. You need to have really good storytelling skills. Yes, with all these amazing things that have been thrown at us, this can do this device can do this, you can find your consumers. Yes, you can find your consumers beautifully, but what the hell are you going to say to them? Yeah. Right? So to stand out, really, you got to have good storytelling skills. So actually, I always tell everybody, for all the agencies, if you really, really want to have good storytelling skills in your agency, don't hire a PR guy, hire a storyteller, hire a novelist. Hire a scriptwriter in your organization, because they know how to pull a story. They know how to create characters. They know how to turn your brand into a hero, because they do it on the screen. So basically, that's what I said. Storytelling is the #1 thing.
And I think just to that point, I think this is the big thing that you notice in the realm of when I talk to television people and tradition and agency people in a digital perspective. You see, in digital, we kind of think of, we've just got to get that campaign out of the door. And no matter all the success metrics we look at, we don't even look at the data again, very rarely. We just say, well, there you go, you've hit your number, and we move on. If I was going to pitch a TV show, I would do the pilot, and the first question I would be asked is, well, how does it go from here? How do we make money from it? They want to look for something that's beyond a pilot. And yet, if we get into that mentality in an agency world of how do I continually talk and tell a story, you actually go back right the way back to radio. And soap operas. Oh, that's lovely soap. Oh, did you see that lady cross the road? And it was all sponsored by, and that's exactly where we've seen TV moving, and soap operas are still the most powerful form of television content. And so I would really say that all of us should become much better at finding ways of, whether it's what we do from a technology or from a delivery mechanism in terms of actually having the media to sit through, is how do we continually keep engaging and telling stories. And I think we don't have it yet. I very rarely see great stories, you know, in an internet world.
Thank you, thank you. Do we have a final question? Yes, Anthony.
Afternoon. This question is for Dean. Have you seen any really cool or innovative ideas for metrics or measuring engagement in either online video or broadcast? Thanks.
So it's a really interesting question. It's one that baffles everybody around the world. I think that you can't measure advertising by clicks. Okay, and what do I mean by that? The numbers are so small. And if your advertising is really, really, really clever and effective, you won't want to click on it, because you'll have told me everything I need to know. And what you'll do is you'll get me so excited, the next thing I want to do is go in and shop and buy something. You know, you've told me the story, you've got me excited about that new handbag. Oh, where can I buy it? Where can I go? You may look for it online and say, where is it cheaper and all the rest of it. You may click on a search, but you won't click on advertising, and less so on video. And you know, it comes from a tradition where all we could do was click on ads 15 years ago, but we're in a situation now it's very different. For me, I think one of the most exciting forms of measurement is time. How many times did you see that creative? How much time did you spend in front of that creative, and what was the quality of that time? Was it a passive glance? Was it a physical touch and play? And being able to quantify that time. And so to me, the future of measurements, both online and offline, has got to be somewhere in time. And I think that's really, you know, what I'm excited about is being able to measure that in a new way, both in terms of television through cameras or mobile phones or whatever technology I've got at my hand. It's just knowing about, you know, the number of times, and maybe that's how we will buy future, you know, media in the future as we move to audience management platforms. I want to buy 30 seconds of this person's time. Where are they, and what kind of time do I want to buy? So I think that to me is what I get most excited by. But I mean, because we all sell media based on time, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, that's got to be somewhere in there in terms of a new way of exploring it. But I'd be interested to know what you guys think.
I think it's probably too harsh to hold digital video accountable to clicks alone. Given the fact that we are so used to buying opportunity to see in television, there's no reason why we should be so strict when it comes to online video, especially because online video, they can even tell us what percentage of the video was watched and whether rollover happened or whether hover happened or whatever. Whereas in TV, all we get to know is that the guy is in the room and watching TV notionally. I mean, there are certain checks that Nielsen has for ensuring that he's at least paying some attention. But obviously, I think the criteria cannot be too strict for digital video. An important point that I must make is, I think Google traditionally has been extremely strong in lower funnel conversions, meaning once a guy is ready to click or sort of towards the end of the path to purchase, Google does a fantastic job of converting those guys. But in terms of attacking the upper funnel guys, as in guys who are still sort of thinking, half aware, not really desired, desire is not necessarily there and so on, or broad intentions, I think digital video can do probably a much better job of bringing those guys down the funnel than pure search can. So I think there is a complementarity. And of course, Google network is itself expanding a lot, so opening a whole lot of new venues. But there is a complementarity between search and the online video that we see.
But beyond search, I mean, the things that we're actually searching from at that point when we're in that funnel is, well, what does somebody think of it? It's not just, is it available in red? It's like, well, who's got one? Did it break after 5 seconds? And so therefore, social media and those comments and that feedback on that product are hugely important. So to me, it's like upper funnel's got to be about how much time did I spend with it. But as you start moving through that conversion cycle, I think social media has got to play a hugely importance. And maybe I don't know, maybe the future will be, did I see the advert and then did I what? Did I click? Or, no, probably not. Did I tweet? Did I tell someone? Did I get into a shop and buy it? Did I go and have a test drive? You know, I think social media, it's got to be absolutely huge and actually be able to know who's bought and then how do I retarget? Who's talked about it and they did or didn't like, how do I kind of influence them? And so there's data in social media that we've very rarely, you know, we're not even at a stage yet from a technology perspective to be able to retarget those comments and feedbacks and stuff.
But that's why Twitter's selling all old tweets.
Yeah.
They're selling old tweets to marketers so that you can get better intel on your customers. You know, so it's huge.
Wonderful. On that wonderful note, I think we shall break for lunch. But before that, once again, big round of applause to our wonderful panelists, Dean, Izham, Prashant, Aditya, and Kutsia. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you. And lunch will be served in the room next to this one. Please come back by 2 o'clock. We have a hot speaker on at 2 o'clock. So I'll see you shortly. Thank you.